She's Ernestine. She's from New York, as if you can't tell from the accent, right? I'm Skip. I'm from Oklahoma City. I have no accent.
Yeah, right. In your dreams. Your dreams, no accent.
This is our daughter, Hazel. She's behaving for the moment. She's also...
she's a Valley girl.
She's a Valley girl. She's from Burbank. She's going to referee as usual. And this is Skip versus Ernestine. We're all the way up to round 8.
Yikes.
And by the way, we're about to go round and round about a whole lot of highly debatable subjects, from LeBron and the LA Fires to the NFL Mahomes and the Swifties to all kinds of issues we argue about behind closed doors. We were just arguing before we started the show.
He said, do you want the air conditioning on?
I'm sweaty.
Not hot.
I'm already sweaty.
I said, cool
What's
yourself
wrong
down.
with you? Well, maybe you should get more up and into this, and maybe
you almost blew my ear out by clearing
I don't
your
even have
throat.
a microphone on. So what's the
There
problem?
we go.
Yeah, way
Here
to go.
we go.
All right, so there you go. Buckle up. You never know where the show's going to go. I sure don't. And by the way, here's a great comment from a YouTube user, AkiraYuki5150, who says, I appreciate the randomness of these Skip and Ernestine episodes.
We are random.
We are very random.
Totally random.
Okay, so let's go off the grid here. Let's take a left-hand turn. Let me start by getting this off my chest. We do live out here in LA. We're in Century City.
Which is by Beverly Hills. People don't know that. I didn't know that before I moved here, so I still don't know where I am.
Is that like a humble brag on your part? By Beverly
No,
Hills?
I'm just saying people know it's like in New York City. They know Times Square.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's near Beverly Hills.
We are near Beverly
I don't
Hills.
care that we live near Beverly Hills. I don't care about Beverly Hills.
Okay.
I care about Beverly Hills, but not in that sense.
Obviously, Ernestine and I know all about the recent LA fires.
Yes, we do. And today the winds are kicking back up. They said that by the middle of the week it may be bad again.
Okay. So a week ago on Monday night, if we can do one small sports tie here, the LA Rams had to move their home playoff game against the Vikings to the Phoenix area, to Glendale. And the Rams went out and they won one for LA.
Which is great.
They balled out LA strong. It was great to watch. Did my heart good. Then later that night, sort of simultaneous, but they had a little later start, LeBron's Lakers played a home game downtown LA at the Crypt, as I call it. They lost badly to a team in the Spurs who had lost 3 straight and is now 3 games under 500. The Lakers lost the second half 73-40 at home.
It's a bad night.
On an LA strong night, right? It was just an embarrassment.
Just a bad night for them.
Yet, after the Lakers then won 2 nights later on Wednesday night at home, they beat the Heat, who were without, at that point, Jimmy Butler. My guy LeBron was interviewed on court, and he talked about how hard the fires had been on the Lakers' psyches because they all knew people who got impacted by the fires.
Which is understandable.
Okay, not really to me, but LeBron went into his oh, woe, were we mode to explain what had happened against the Spurs on Monday night.
Yeah.
We just weren't ready. We weren't into it. I got to call a little bit of BS on that. Okay.
Oh, God.
So, you know and I know that in our episode that we did of Skip versus Ernestine a week ago,
Yep.
we were very careful not to say, oh, woe, or we, because there's no oh, woe, or we. And I do think some people, and we got texts from friends all over the country saying, are you okay?
Well, people don't know how far you live from the fires.
Yeah.
When they say you're in California, people think, oh my God, maybe my friends are in that area. People don't know. But
Okay,
I don't.
But the video that you saw on the national news, it somehow misled a lot of people around the country into thinking that Rome is burning, like LA is on fire, downtown LA is on fire.
That's the media. You can't, that's the media,
and
that's
the
what they
truth
present to people.
The truth was, these were fairly small pockets of the Los Angeles
it's just
area.
part of Los Angeles. I don't know how small, because there's billions of acres burning and there's millions of people.
Okay, but of course the Palisades
Well, there is no more Palisades.
Okay,
It's gone.
it was a very affluent area.
Yeah.
And it's about maybe 6 miles from here,
Yeah.
from where we are.
Yep.
We're down in the flats, as they call them. So we're not surrounded by forest or mountains or brush. So it'd be much harder for the fire to get here, even though, as we talked about last week, you were freaked out because you were afraid it was going to come here.
Who knows anything?
And obviously, the fires hit into the area east of downtown LA called Altadena, which is not a particularly affluent neighborhood, and whose my heart went out to, because
but then there was in the Hollywood Hills, and so
it was just that was
sporadic.
just a spot fire in the Hollywood Hills, and there was a spot fire in Studio City that we watched live. We watched a 4-story house burn in Studio City.
It's just terrible across the board, in my opinion.
But for the most part, Hollywood Hills and Studio City got contained fairly quickly.
Yeah,
and so these areas of tragedy, and where some people
Brentwood had some.
Okay, but it was mostly evacuation in Brentwood, where all of our friends, because I'm a member at Brentwood Country Club, I have dozens of friends at Brentwood, my 2 golf partners that I play with weekly at Brentwood, who got evacuated, but their homes ended up being okay.
Yeah, but the thing is, when you're evacuated and you're allowed to go back in your home, which now the news said you're allowed to go back, and they have to have a policeman with you to go back to your home. Even though your house is okay to go in, the smell of smoke, these poor people are going back into their homes, and it's just, they have to have everything fumigated, and it's almost as if maybe it was better that you don't have the house, because you're going to end up living in a house that just has smoke reeking in it. And it's just it's a tragedy all the way around, in my opinion. And so LeBron is upset. I totally understand. LeBron is my guy. I like LeBron. I don't know why, mind.
Okay, let's change the subject before I get in any more trouble. So last Saturday, we were walking our little Hazel, our little Maltese, at the mall. We take her every Saturday.
We get a pretzel
parade
at
of
Auntie
dogs.
Anne's, and it's a little ritual.
It's just like a picnic. It's almost so. And
I bring the
ants
and the plaid
picnic,
tablecloth.
Right? Okay. So you glance down at your phone.
I just happened to be looking to see at my emails, and then was an email that came up: breaking news: Taylor Swift has arrived at the stadium. And I just laughed because I said, this is so crazy. Okay. This is what the world has become. Celebrityism. The breaking news is that she has arrived at the stadium. It's kind of like back in the day, a lot of people don't know who Elvis is. Maybe people do know who Elvis is. It's like Elvis has left the building. When Elvis finished a concert,
that's a good point.
He left the building, and they would announce over the microphone.
The building. Okay.
Now it's the opposite. Taylor has arrived, and this is what she's wearing. Okay. And I just have to laugh about the craziness of
And you said to me, when is this going to end?
I just said, when does this end?
And it's just getting started, because she is she.
Right.
She is huge. She brings what feels like billions of eyeballs into the NFL games that the NFL is starting to cherish and protect. And then the game happens soon after. We had to be home by 1:30 this time.
Right.
It would be
4:30.
4:30 East, 3:30 where it kicked off at Arrowhead. And it happened again. There were 2 outrageous penalties drawn by Patrick Mahomes benefiting the Chiefs that were phantom, that were ridiculous, that were bogus. And I went crazy on my Twitter, and then I think
everybody did.
With the video that I posted, because it feels like they're protecting Mahomes at home to get him to the next game, which is now the AFC Championship game, and to get him especially to the next game, which is the Super Bowl in New Orleans, because they need Taylor Swift in New Orleans, because they need the Swifties to stay tuned in, if only to see what she's wearing up in the luxury box at the Superdome in New Orleans, right?
But, on the same
okay, so it's not going to end.
It's a lower level, but it's on the same account. When Tony Parker was dating Eva Longoria and married her, there was the buzz about that. So I think it just happens especially now that athletes have become larger than life. They were not always larger than life to the point of where they are now. Mickey Mantle was huge. They were huge players throughout history. Everybody in the world, there was a player that was big.
There was Joe DiMaggio,
and I mean Babe Ruth. We can go back
to those. And who did Joe date? Or
Marilyn Monroe.
Okay, you say Monroe. I say Monroe.
Right.
Is it Monroe or Monroe? That's a
don't know,
New
but it's
York
the same
thing.
thing.
Marilyn Monroe?
But
I don't get
yeah,
that.
but you see, throughout time and history, it wasn't that there was this social media
there
blowout
wasn't.
that
And
magnifies
Marilyn
everything.
Monroe, as you say.
Marilyn was bigger than Taylor would ever be.
I
Oh, you don't think so?
I don't think so.
Oh my
because
God!
she didn't
no
sing.
way.
She was just
no way.
on the
Marilyn,
silver screen.
And again, this is nothing against Taylor Swift. Nothing. Marilyn is at a level. Frank Sinatra, Marilyn.
In your
eyes, they're icons that will go down in history. I don't know. Is she going to go down in history? Maybe. Not at the same level as a Marilyn.
But Eva Longoria doesn't sing,
Eva, but she was hot at the time because she was in that Desperate Housewives.
Okay.
And then you have, there's so
and
many
Tony
of
Parker
those.
was the MVP of that NBA Finals.
Right, but it's just, and that was a couple of years ago where the social media wasn't as big as it is now. The social media is larger than anything in the world. Remember the time you were in Bristol when you worked at ESPN and you lived at the Residence Inn, the hotel,
I did.
the Residence Inn
Lived
for
there
10
for
years.
10 years.
Okay. You called me one day. You said, hey, I have to go to Target. I have to get some vitamins. I said, oh, yeah. And you said, I think I'm going to stop at Subway and get a sandwich. I said, yeah, that's a good idea. And you called me and you said to me, I just got the sandwich. And by the time I got back to the Residence Inn, someone already posted that you got the sandwich.
But that was like in 09.
Right. So
when I was
that was
instantaneously
back then. Now it's to the point where it's just out of control. And so you cannot do anything. So she arrives at the stadium. It's the biggest news beyond the president being inaugurated today.
Although I told you, and I was only slightly exaggerating, that if she ran for president, I think she could win right now.
Probably get on the ticket.
Right?
Right.
Although then I said on Saturday later in the day, because Caitlin Clark, who I loved, showed up in the box with Taylor Swift. And I said, to me, Caitlin is bigger, but maybe I'm a prisoner of sports. But
there is no way she's
bigger than Taylor Swift.
I mean, honestly,
I don't know.
I'm not a
Clark
big
is
ladies,
huge.
I'm not a big women's basketball person, but there's no way she's bigger than Taylor Swift.
I think she, in her
maybe
realm,
in your mind, she's bigger than Taylor Swift, or maybe you wish that she's bigger.
I'm like, why are you associating with Taylor Swift?
Because
it's not like you need to feed off her fame.
Because she needs to have these people. I don't even know if it was maybe her, but Caitlin's person probably said, hey, let's get you over there. This is going to be a big game. And
I'm pretty sure Taylor initiated that.
Back in the day of Hollywood, they would arrange marriages because they wanted people to think this one was married to this one and they have a happy life.
Or that this one was not gay.
Right. This one is straight. This one's gay. It's the Hollywood system. So now you take that Hollywood system and you're bringing it into this point of time. It's the similar thing. You need to have these people show up where these superstars are to be associated.
Okay. All right.
Like if you go to a concert and you go backstage, or even when we would go to plays in New York on Broadway, backstage, there are people going to see the stars of the play. They have nothing to do with the play. They don't even know the star, but they're there because their name is going to be associated with today at backstage was blah, 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 seeing the star.
Okay.
They have to have the association.
Well, this is the Taylor Swift effect, and it's only just beginning. So you say, what are they doing? Well, if you're the managing editor of that website, you're saying, go with it.
Well, they have to because that's
people
what
will
their
click
people
on it.
want to know.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I think I won that argument then, right? That was the argument we
Maybe,
had
but
on
not
Saturday.
about Marilyn. That is, and Caitlin, no way.
Yeah. I think many people watching right now only know Marilyn Manson,
No,
right?
people know Monroe.
Okay.
I don't care if
Monroe.
you're 2 years old. You know who Marilyn Monroe is.
All right. Next up, you brought this up to me. This is your idea, your topic. So let's try it. Let's talk about wives talking girl talk to their husbands, right?
Yes, it's a big thing that
because you said you and your girlfriends got into this discussion.
I had lunch with a friend last week. We talked about this, and it's a total, everybody can relate if they have a boyfriend or they have a husband or a partner or whatever it is. My mother, who had the greatest sayings in the world, because my mother lived a great life and a long life, and she lived a couple of lives, she would say to me, I would call her and I'd say, really made me mad. I said to Skip, whatever about a friend of mine. Do you believe that she said that to me or whatever? And you would immediately say, oh, So now you don't want to know her anymore? And I would say, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, do you believe she said that? And you'd be like, oh, I don't know what to say. I'd say, I'm not asking you to give me something back. And I would call my mother, and my mother would automatically say, you cannot talk to your boyfriend, husband, partner like he is your girlfriend.
Thank you.
That's the bottom line. And I forget that sometimes. I did it the other day with you.
Although I argued back when you brought this up.
Yeah.
And I said, give me some credit, because I think I do girl talk better than most guys do.
You think. That's in your head, you think.
But
that.
I do. I'm more
maybe
open
to other
and
girls,
willing.
not to me, because when I bring something up to you, it's like you immediately go to the extreme. Oh, then you should never, then don't see that person. Don't talk to, I'm just, you need to, it's as my sister would say, you're just talking. You're just talking.
Okay.
You say things to me sometimes about, you believe my friend said this, whatever, and I feed into it with you because I'm a better girlfriend to talk to than you're a better girlfriend. Because when I had lunch with my friend Lonnie last week, she said to me, I think it's because guys are raised differently, and especially where they come from helps, right? You come from Oklahoma City, I come from New York City. But guys are not raised in the sense, again, it's not a blanket statement, all guys, but women can adapt to different situations and they take it further. Guys usually are very cut and dry, black and white. There's not a lot of gray in between.
Okay, so you live in the gray?
I live in expanding. Like if something, I want to talk about something, I take it different areas. You're very, you don't like her, then don't talk to her anymore. I didn't say I'm not going to talk to her anymore.
Okay.
I'm just going to say.
You got miffed the other day about something. We have a woman who comes to clean.
We have a cleaning woman.
Yeah,
everybody most likely. I had a cleaning woman when I had a studio apartment in New York City. And
and you couldn't understand why she moved something here.
No,
and I'm
the picture in the hall, the Die Hard picture I bought you years ago, it had fallen or something. And then there's nails or a hook that you have to put it on, and she didn't pull the hook out. So I found it behind the bar. Mm-hmm. And I said to you, and I then took it and I hung it back. When the bar was here, and we don't drink. Right. But anyway, I put it back on the wall, and I said to you, do you believe she didn't hang it back up? I mean, why not just hang it back up? And you said, I thought you liked her. Are you down on her? No, I'm not down on her. I'm just saying, if I said that to my girlfriend, Francesca, or my sister, Joyce, we would all get into it. I know. Do you believe that? Now you're down on her. Well, that's the difference between men and women.
Okay, but I like conversations, and I'm open to conversations that matter. If you're telling me something that matters, but sometimes you just babble about things that don't really matter, and I'm like,
But where is the rule book of what matters in life and what doesn't? What is important enough to talk about?
Because you're smart, and you know
you
what
also have
matters.
this thing. I'll never forget when you're. This is so crazy. I don't even want to talk about it, but I will. Like to you, age. Like only if you're turning 20, 30, 40, 50, is that like a big milestone? Like all the years in between, like when I said to you, you were going to buy your friend a gift or something, or your friend who worked with you, and you said, he's turning 42. I said, that's great. What are you going to get him? You said, well, it's not like a milestone. Well, there's years between 20 and 30 and 30 and 40. Okay. So because it's not a milestone, that person doesn't deserve a gift because it's meaningless. Like that's the same kind of thing you're saying. It's the conversations are meaningless. I have to look at the book. Is that in the, maybe no, the picture's falling and not saying anything. That's not in there. So is that how you do?
Okay. So the other night after the divisional round games on Sunday, you come in my man cave, and I'm starting to prep for the show that I was going to tape early Monday morning.
Yeah.
I just finished taping a video off the Ravens-Bills game.
You were in a lull.
No, I was in a lull, but I was locked in because my head was still completely in football, and you started telling me a story that doesn't matter. But it was fine, and I.
But it mattered to me.
I know, but I told you if you'll just wait until tomorrow afternoon, I'll have plenty of time. Okay, but you got to pick your spots.
But you can't tell somebody to wait.
My head was completely in the football, and what am I going to do for my longer form show that we were going to tape the next morning?
I know, but when somebody is jacked up to tell you something, you can't say, "Hey, hold that thought till tomorrow." Okay, I never do that to you. I always listen to whatever. Like you come in and you're like going off on something like
that's true.
Something that's not meaningful to me, but I always make the time.
Okay. I still think I'm very open to girl talk if you pick the time and the place. Well, you got to.
The girl talk can only be between 2 and 4:07.
Well, when
otherwise, we cannot have girl talk today.
When my mind is not otherwise occupied by football.
But it's
or
called
basketball.
life.
Okay.
Things happen throughout the whole day.
All right.
It's not certain moments.
Okay, I'll give you the slight edge on that one.
Thank you.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
So why does Hazel hang out with me?
Hazel has girl talk all the time.
No, she hangs out with me all day because she gets tired of the girl talk, and she's a girl. And she says, I don't want to hear that babble anymore.
She's sequestered in the room to watch
I don't keep her prisoner.
She is prisoner.
She chooses.
No, she is prisoner.
She stays with me all day. On Sunday, she was with me all day long.
She can't choose. She can't open the door. The doorknob is way up. She can't reach. Okay. She knocks into the door.
What do you always say when I take her into you, out of my man cave, and take her to you, and you say, don't leave her here. She'll just scratch on the door and want to come back to you.
Well, that's true because you've trained her. You've trained her. Right. Immediately, you walk out the door and she's whimpering. She wants to go because it's like, it's like when people are put in a cult.
She says,
when people are put in a cult, when they've taken into a cult, and sometimes they can break free, but they only know the cult, so they kind of stay in the cult. It's kind of like she's in a cult. Yeah. She's in a sport cult. Right, Hazel? She's in a sport cult. But she only knows me for food. It's 5:00. I got to break out of the sport cult.
All right. So after I mentioned last week, I dragged her to the vampire movie Nosferatu.
It was okay. I mean, I don't love it, but it was okay.
I readily agreed the other night to watch on Netflix Back in Action. I compromised. Cameron Diaz, Jamie Foxx. I said, I'm not that fired up, but I will compromise because you went to Nosferatu and you hung in there through it and you liked it. Okay. I'm going to give this a shot. And you scared me a little bit because you really, really got into Back in Action.
It was so good.
You're like, I love
Cameron Diaz.
Oh my God, how are they going to get out of this one? I'm like, it's a movie. It's
he takes he deflates. It's like, the balloon and he let the air. Woo! That's what he does. She is great. I love Bad Teacher's my favorite movie she's ever done. We went to see it 2 times. I know, 2 days in a row. We went to the movies to see that movie.
We did, right? With Jamel Hill, of all people, in Bristol, Connecticut. Yeah, she went with us the second time, right?
And then Jamie Foxx, who I love, love, love. So how could you have a bad movie? And it's her first movie back after 10 years of being out. She had 2 kids.
I'll give you this. The dialogue did occasionally make me laugh.
It had some good jokes.
But their patter was, it's just so unbelievable because people don't consistently talk that way to each other.
We watch shows and nobody talks about, we watch a movie set in the 1800s in Western. People don't speak like that.
Okay.
Got to get your gunny sack. You got to, you don't talk like that
And then
anymore.
her mom in the movie is played by Glenn Close.
It was great.
And she's this rich former spy.
Yeah, we don't want to give too much away, but they're former spies. It's kind of like Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
She has a boyfriend she's training to be a spy, a younger man. And he was a goof. He was just like, he ruined it because he's such a clown. He
wasn't that good.
That after a while, I'm like, just stop it.
Glenn Close
get him out of here.
They had some really funny lines.
Okay.
I thought it was great.
I'll give you that.
You liked it.
It was pretty good. As those go, it's just pure escape.
It's pure fun.
And
it doesn't have to have a meaning.
And listen, Cameron Diaz, you looked her up. I didn't know how old she was. She was 54.
I think 54. She looks amazing.
God, it looked like she was doing her own stunts, and she was kicking some ass.
Yeah, she looks great.
Yeah, and Jamie Foxx is always just good at whatever he does.
And the kids were good in it.
You just buy it, right?
The 2 kids were good.
They were good.
It was a good cast. It was a fun movie. I would suggest it.
So she recommends
I give it 5 popcorns out of 5 popcorns.
Would you really?
Yeah, I would.
But if you give it a letter grade, would you give it
I'd give it a A-.
Okay, I'll give it a B.
All right,
a real solid
good.
B.
Yeah.
Okay. And yet, I am now hooked on another Netflix production called American Primeval. And I just sort of stumbled into it, but I'm really into the Old West, especially that 1860s
I like
to
it
70s
too, but I just
period.
couldn't. It's too violent.
Okay, it is.
But my friend Mark, who's the Wall Street Journal arts and entertainment contributor, and he's a great author, and he knows entertainment like the back of his hand. He interviewed Taylor Kitsch, who played in it, and said he's the nicest guy in the world, and that this film, this series, is for him, one of the best things he's ever done for Taylor Kitsch.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Taylor Kitsch plays, I guess you'd say, the lead in this, and I'm sure he's a nice guy off camera. And he's
Yeah.
actually a nice guy in this,
Yeah.
but he is a badass.
Yeah, he is. But he's a great
He was
actor.
raised by the Shoshone in this, but I'm into it. I'm trying to talk her into trying to get into it because it actually has a good story.
I don't mind the
man-woman
story about the scalping and the
it's
arrows, and it's just too bloody.
But I'm into that period.
Yeah, you love that.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm into that book, Empire of the Summer Moon,
that
which
was
is just extraordinary, about the kidnapping of, what was her name? Cynthia Ann Parker. And there's a kidnapping of a white woman on the prairie by the Shoshone in this one for a while. So it's got sort of those undertones or overtones.
Well, another series that we love, which was so good, and if anybody likes Westerns, they should look it up, was Hell on Wheels.
It was
that
great.
was one of the best series with Common.
Right.
He was great
and this
in
has
it.
some connection to that. It's got some Utah with the Mormons in it, and Brigham Young is in American Primeval, whatever. Okay.
Great.
All right. Let's get deeper into this. Let's talk about fighting, and I'm not talking about boxing or MMA, but I'm talking about us getting into arguments that lead into battles, which we don't want to have battles.
We don't really do battles. It's not like
I don't
all we
know.
do. I don't think all we do all day long is fight.
No, not all day long, but I think
But
we
I
fight too much.
But everybody fights.
Well, I guess, but you are.
Oh, anybody who lives in a
it's
house
funny.
where there's no fighting is just not
Okay,
real.
remember, my whole career has been based on fighting, as in debating.
Yeah, you
so
debate.
I like to spar, I like to argue, I
Yeah.
like to defend my position.
Yeah.
But it's always in the realm of sports.
Well,
and
it's
so
also on TV or wherever. It's not like in your house.
we're on TV right now.
That's right. And we're in our house.
Oh, yeah, you forgot.
I forgot.
Okay.
Stupid me.
Okay. So the point is that you're very combative and argumentative, but I don't understand where you draw the line, because I'll just be having a normal conversation and all of a sudden you're fighting with me. You're battling me.
I think that's in your head. Honestly, I think, again, the difference, you're from Oklahoma City, I'm from New York City. I think it's two different temperaments. I think that people from New York are not that we're always loud, but I think we're more loud. It's just New York. It's like, hey, you have the Daily News today? That's New York.
But you always accuse me of talking too loudly in your ear on this show.
Well, you're going 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's in my ear.
That was before we started.
But you, Oklahoma City people, I've spent some time there, not a lot of time, but you're more mild. It's like your mother raised you not to show. Your mother didn't show emotion.
Don't
Your
let the
mother
neighbors
don't let the
see how
neighbors
bad it
see
is
what's
behind
going
closed
on.
doors. No.
That's that whole world. If anybody ever knows the movie Annie Hall, which if you like Woody Allen, and if Annie Hall is a classic,
It's in my top 10.
Yeah, it's in my top 10 too. We agree on that.
Bingo. A first.
Diane Keaton's character, her mom is Colleen Dewhurst, and they are very
Minnesota,
yeah. And they're very mild, and they're very, they sit at the table, and their conversation is, oh, did you know that the Williams no longer have their tennis court, and that they're very, and Woody Allen is sitting there like, because then they cut to Woody Allen's house in Brooklyn,
Jewish.
and it's like, hey, did you give me that matzo ball soup over here? And
what are you talking about?
That's how I grew up, and that's me. So when you say to me, why are you yelling at me? I'm not really yelling. It's who I am.
It can be the most innocent exchange about what we're going to do tonight or whatever, and all of a sudden you're fighting with me. I'm sorry.
But that's you don't get it. It's not a yelling. It's expressing it's just expressing myself. People from New York are different than the rest of the country and the world.
Okay. And by the way, in the Annie Hall scene, Woody's at the table and he thinks they're anti-Semitic.
Right, they were.
He's going inside the head of the grandmother.
Right, the grandmother is sitting there eyeing him up,
who's
sizing
viewing
him up.
him as like a Hasidic Jew, right?
Right. And he sits there and he sees that he thinks that the grandma is looking at him as though he's like a rabbi or Hasidic Jew, and because they were just so anti anything.
And by the way, she grew up in a Jewish mother household with Italian father,
Right.
which is a volatile mix.
Right. Well, a lot of food, a lot of guilt, and a lot of yelling.
I don't know.
You grew up in a house that you didn't even know where your mother and father were.
I didn't.
Right. And
Nor did they know where I was.
Right. And you had food that you had to make yourself. My mother cooked every single night amazing meals. My mother was the best cook in the world. And we never ate, like once in a while, my father would bring home as a treat Le Choi Chinese food from the can. That was what we had as a treat. Okay. But we never went out to, my father didn't believe in eating out in restaurants, that the food at home is better than any food you can go to a restaurant and you see.
I'll buy that.
And you know what you're making. Like now you go to a restaurant, you come home and you have food poisoning.
Okay.
So
that's true.
That was,
yeah.
That was the difference. So I think it's just the difference.
My parents ran this little hole-in-the-wall barbecue restaurant on the south side of Oklahoma City, and they were always there, and I would come in from basketball practice, football practice, whichever practice, and
that was your meal.
Yeah, and I would open the oven to find something from what's called the Hickory House.
Right.
It would be, somebody's moving around here, so she's upset.
Yeah.
She doesn't like our crew.
Well, you would just eat what they left you in a plate.
I would just warm it up and eat it. And so food for me, because I wasn't a cook, my brother, 2 years younger, became a famous chef because he got launched by the Hickory House. But I didn't care about food because it was never like when you sell food.
Yeah,
you don't.
That's like
you don't value the food that you eat, and so my parents both smoked, and so they would never eat the food that they prepared.
Right.
So they just didn't eat.
But see, in my house, food was a very important thing. You based your whole weekend, especially a Sunday, is very important in Italian Jewish homes. It's a family thing, you know.
Okay. All right. Let's take a question.
So I'm not yelling. It's just who I am.
Okay. I still can't get used to it because it just seems like it flares into a fight too much.
I think you got to get used to it, and then you'll accept it as not yelling.
Okay. Let's take a question from David from West Palm Beach, Florida, a place that I lived out of college for a little while. Okay. David asks or says, the two people you speak most highly of are Ernestine's mother and Katie Bell Henderson. Do you think they would have gotten along with each other?
Without a doubt.
Okay, I'm going to have to explain real quickly. Okay, her mother, Evelyn, became my mother, Evelyn.
Yeah. And
she was the greatest Jewish mother ever. She was the youngest and kept the sort of apron strings attached all the way into adulthood. Yeah. So you were very close and very sort of dependent upon her voice and her insight and her wisdom. You talked to her 29 times a day, every day, 49 times a day. And I basically got raised by a black woman named Katie Bell Henderson, who I hate to even explain this because it doesn't translate, but this wasn't typical. My grandmother didn't have much money. It wasn't like the help. It wasn't plantation mentality. She just worked for my grandmother, and it was actually a good job because she ran the household because my grandmother traveled for what she did, and she was gone all the time. And so Katie Bell was the anchor. She was the authority figure in my grandmother's house. And
plus your parents were alcoholics, so that was a big problem.
I had... My home life was just a wreck. And so I got left over there as the oldest a lot. Mm-hmm. And I took to Katie Bell. She took to me. She was a black woman she grew up in Alabama, but she had lived much of her adult life in Chicago, on the south side of Chicago. And her granddaughter named Audrey would come down in the summers, and I would hang out in the backyard with Audrey, and we would make up games. And so I learned all about the south side of Chicago from Audrey, which was maybe the best education I had. School or no school, all the way up through high school was that, and from Katie Bell. Yeah. So she taught me right from wrong. I listened to that woman, and she would let me know when I was out of line. She would grab me and shake me like, no, you don't. She taught me the meaning of the word hypocrite. Yeah. And she was, it's funny. I say your mom became my mom, but my early mother was Katie Bell.
Yeah.
Okay.
But my mom grew up on the Lower East Side of New York City with parents that left school when they were 12 years old they came over to Ellis Island, and my mother left school when she was 13 years old
Okay.
and had no education. But my mother was smarter than most people I would know
That
even
is a
today,
fact.
because
fact.
sometimes it doesn't matter how much schooling you have. It's called life. Life is the school for people. And my mother knew more about anything. I could talk to my mother about anything in the world, and my mother could guide me what to do, what I shouldn't do, and she was always right. And so my mother would love to meet Katie Bell. I'm sure they probably
would have
probably
hit
are
it
watching
off.
right now,
They
because my
probably
mother
are.
would immediately say, "Do you play cards? Do you play poker?" Because my mother loved playing poker. My mother would have 5 men that would come over 4 nights a week to her house. She had a card table in the sunroom, and they would play, and it was for like $1 and $2, but it was just, she loved life, and she loved fun, and she loved all people. She didn't care color, age, sex. My mother would tell me the only thing that matters is if somebody treats you well. That's what I believe in. I don't care about anything else.
And the main thing Katie Bell taught me as a black woman was we all are little pieces of God. Color
Right.
doesn't matter. We all came from the same place, from God. Now, what we do with ourselves, what we choose for ourselves, right from wrong, is our choice.
Mm-hmm.
But we all came from the very same place. And she loved everybody no matter what they were. So
That's why they would
and
definitely
Evelyn
get
would have
along.
been
Oh
a
my
big
God.
click.
They would be laughing, and
Yeah.
and my mother believed in God.
And,
Jewish, had a Christmas tree, believed in
and
God.
Katie Bell
Yeah.
occasionally took me to her AME church in
Uh-huh.
Oklahoma City, where I'm pretty sure I was only like 8, but I'm pretty sure I was the only white person in the congregation.
Probably.
And they treated me like a little prince, like that. They were so good to me and made me feel so comfortable. And they were, speaking of emotion,
Mm-hmm.
they were so emotional in their worship of God,
Mm-hmm.
because the way they sang, the way they shouted out to what the preacher was preaching,
Mm-hmm.
amen, amen,
Mm-hmm.
amen. We didn't do that in our church,
Right,
because
right.
we were,
Yeah,
what you said, we were
contain your
closed.
emotions
We
and
were,
don't. Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Okay. All right. So Katie Bell had the biggest, greatest laugh in the history of laughs, which is
So
why
she would be my mother's best friend.
They
Oh
would
my
just
God.
been best friends.
They
And I
would
hope that they're watching this and that they're chuckling to each other right now.
Oh my God,
Right?
they're probably playing cards.
Because I've told this story before. I'll quickly tag our story with this one,
Mm-hmm.
that you had a shaman that you connected
Mm-hmm.
with in New York named Joseph,
Mm-hmm.
a black man from
Mm-hmm.
New Orleans, and you had talked to him a couple times, and you wanted me to talk to him, and I
Mm-hmm.
was just shaky about it because I'm not sure I believe in that.
Mm-hmm.
But you said, no, he's a good man. He's God-based
Mm-hmm.
and God-fearing. Just give him a shot. And I didn't even know what to ask him or talk about.
Well, you
And so,
didn't have to, because he would.
so I got on
take
the
the
phone
lead.
with Joseph from New York, and we weren't on a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden he says, there's a woman who wants to join us. And I'm like,
Right.
what? Because I'm not buying joining us
Right.
from
Mm-hmm.
above, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, no, she wants to join. And then my first nightmarish
You thought
thought
it was
was,
your
is my
mother.
mother, and I don't want to talk to my mother.
No, tell her to come back another time.
Yeah, I'm busy right now, right? I'm talking to Joseph.
Right.
And he says, no, it's a black woman. And I'm like,
It's crazy.
black woman? There's no way Joseph could have known
No,
this.
there was no way. I didn't talk to him, and he didn't know anything, and there's nothing in you.
And he described her, and I said, Katie Bell? He said, yep, it's Katie Bell. And she wants you to know just one thing. She wants you to know how proud she is of you.
That's incredible.
And it just,
that's a mind
rocked
blower.
me.
Yeah, that is incredible.
okay.
That's incredible.
Okay.
Need another good shaman because Joseph left.
Now, let me get my pet peeve about you out on the, so to speak, table
Here we
for
go.
everyone out there to react to or maybe to relate to.
Uh-huh.
When we go out to eat, if the restaurant is not packed, I know for a fact that wherever we get seated, that you will ask to be moved to another table like clockwork within 1 minute, within 30 seconds. We'll, as soon as we get situated, as soon as I take out my phone and maybe my wallet and get them situated where I want them on the table, you're going to look around and say, you know, I think that table would be a lot better because there's a draft in here,
here's
right?
the story. This is what normally happens. When you go to any restaurant, I don't care if you go to a diner, I don't care if you go to a 5-star restaurant, whether you have a reservation, you don't have a reservation, whatever it is. They always seat you next to other people because they don't want to have to seat you where then
there's
someone's
no station,
alone and there's nobody working that station.
Okay.
I don't like sitting next to other people. I don't mind it, but it's like if you and I go to a movie, I like to sit away from people. I'm claustrophobic, number one. Number
now we
two,
have the COVID issue. Yeah.
Well, I don't want people sitting on top of me. Why do I have to sit? It's like when I would take the train when I used to live in New York and I worked in New York City and lived on Long Island before I moved in. I would get in the car, the train car, and I'd get by myself. And the next stop, the whole car is empty. They have to sit right next to you. Why do you have to sit right next to me? It's this thing. Even if I go to the nail place, I go in, I say to the girl, she knows, she's like, I sit you over here. Okay. They have to bring the person, sit right next to me. So it's the same premise when you go to a restaurant. So either I don't want to sit on top of people, and number two is I don't want to sit if I feel a draft. Why do I want to sit the whole time we're eating and I have to wear a coat? So that is why. You come from a different world. Again, it's back to Oklahoma City versus New York. You will sit through, if it was snowing, if there was a hole in the roof at the restaurant and the snow was coming in on your head, you would sit there and let it pile up.
I would.
I immediately would say, there's a hole. I'm not going to sit here with the snow coming in. You would say to me, oh, come on, just sit there. What does it matter?
Okay.
We're going to be out of here in an hour. Right. There's the difference between you and me.
Okay, but it's almost like an obsession.
It's not my fault. They all do the same thing.
It's like you're defective where you cannot accept where you get seated.
I'm leaving Russia. That's defecting.
Okay. Yeah, defecting. So you're like, you're going to come up with something wrong, and it might be people, but it also might be there's a draft in here.
Yes.
I feel a draft.
Why do I want to subject myself if I want to sit and have, whether I'm eating an English muffin or I'm having salmon in a nice restaurant or a diner, why do I want to sit where I'm not comfortable?
I know, but it's clockwork that it happens every single time. If it happened 1 out of 10.
What did I send you yesterday?
As soon as I brought
There's
this
a
up
Lucy
to her.
episode.
She is Lucy Ricardo.
I
love Lucy and Ricky. And so she immediately sends me, once I brought this up to her the other day.
There's an episode.
She sent me a clip, and you can just call it up on YouTube.
Yeah, Lucy
changes tables. Right? She changes tables.
Right.
And it's classic.
It's called Lucy Changes Her Mind. Okay. And they go around the table, Fred and Ethel, Lucy, and Ricky.
What do you want?
What do you want? And so Lucy says, I'm going to have roast beef. And then they all go, I'm going to have turkey, pork chops. She's like, then he says, okay, 1 roast beef, 1 turkey, 1 pork chop. She says, wait a minute.
I think I'm going to have
pork chops. That sounds good. So then she changes her mind like 4 times.
And then everybody changes
their mind. And then she says, Ricky, this table, there's a draft in here. And that's exactly... That's what he was telling me I was. And immediately it clicked. I love Lucy.
Okay. So for the sake of this union, of this marriage, I had to early, we've been together for 20 years.
19, whatever.
Okay. I think we're close to 20. Yeah. But in the first couple of years, this started happening and I just couldn't take it. It'd be like, this is getting scary.
Well, you get so embarrassed. Okay. I'm not embarrassed.
Because now we have to pick up everything. We have to move.
Well, I take the silverware.
They've already put the water down.
Right. I usually take the water and the silverware. So we have to pick up everything, the water and the silverware, and move it away over here to this other table. Who cares? And sometimes people do recognize me, and I'm like, well, who cares?
It's okay. No big deal. Right.
Wear a bigger baseball cap.
For the sake, for the compromise, you're okay, Hazel. You're okay. For the compromise that has to be made for this relationship to work, I just finally gave into it.
Just give it up.
And so now, as soon as you
stand, you don't sit yet.
What are
the
they called? It's maitre d' or sometimes just the host or hostess or whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
As soon as they say, I've got a table just for you. On the way to the table, I have to make up my mind, get it set in my mind. this is
therapist for
only the
this.
first stop because we're going to make another
is
stop.
brutal.
And so I kind of hang for a second. And
I don't take my coat off.
yeah, I just hang because
go to
I
the
know it's going to
bathroom.
come. How about, over there?
Well, why don't you do
this is a
this?
nice booth over here. Why would we sit
Right,
out
but
in
you should
front?
do this. When they bring us to a table, then you should say, wait a minute, there's that table over there. You should just cut to the chase and give me two other options.
She's
Because
on my
we're going
side. She knows.
She doesn't care.
knows.
Just give her food anywhere, she'll eat it.
That's true.
She don't care about where.
All right. Next question. This is in honor of the month of January. Let's delve into diet and exercise as they
jeez.
both impact our relationship.
Yeah.
Because,
Well, at 96 pounds, I'm not dieting. So.
okay. So obviously, I'm pretty obsessed with both.
Yeah, you're obsessive.
And I was long before her.
Yes.
But the point was that I kind of gravitated early on when I first knew you to, well, sure, why don't you come to the gym with me and we can learn to work out together, because it can be fun to work out together, especially if you get into it. And you did take your exercise very seriously.
I was exercising before I knew you. My entire life, growing up in New York. Now, I was heavy as a kid, okay? I lived in a Jewish Italian house. When I was little, I was like a size 12. I'm only 5'4.5", 5'5" on a good day. So when I was little and I was like a 12, because every meal we ate, there was cheese and challah bread and Italian bread. So I never knew that you can eat a meal without having all of that. Yeah. So the minute I left my house, I lost weight. So I was heavy as a kid. So I know what it's like to be heavy.
She was heavy.
Yeah, I was heavy. Yeah.
All right, there you go.
Okay. So then when I finally moved to New York, I was 18 years old. I realized I have to eat like that. I realized I could start walking, because walking is the best exercise for anything.
She walks like a fiend.
Right, I do.
She's addicted
so my
to
whole
long
life
walking.
in New York would be, if I met a friend, I would plan it around walking. When I was working for the PR agencies, I had to go to a meeting. 10 blocks is 10 minutes. So if I need to meet somebody, 30 blocks away, half hour away.
Okay,
so
but we're
I used
talking
walking.
about weight lifting.
Yeah, but that wasn't as important to me as the walking.
Okay, but one time you came with me to what was then a Gold's Gym.
Yeah, down our street on 54th
Street.
Yeah.
Where I was living when I first
Before
met you,
I met
and then
you,
you moved there. And it's like 3 doors down from this apartment complex or high rise.
Yeah.
And you went with me.
Yeah, I went with you.
The first time.
Yeah, and then you said to me, hey, there's a trainer here. I see that he trains other women.
Okay, but first we tried.
No, I think it was the other way, no?
We tried. And
I thought it was
tried
because the guy wanted to talk to me. Wasn't it because the guy didn't really want to work me out? He liked talking to women when they were working out. I think that was it. And then I went there, and he was like, I was trying to work out with him, and all he wanted to do is talk to me. So what do you do for a living? And I'm like, the whole hour is going by, and I'm not doing anything.
But the point of this question was that you actually did try to let me
then
walk
I went
you
with
through.
you. You said to me, why don't I train you? And I said, okay. So we went to Gold's Gym.
Okay, and obviously we have to change the weight. Not that I'm the strongest man in the world, but I'm a little stronger than you are, and so I don't mind, and I would change the weight.
Yeah.
They had a bunch of equipment where it's plate loaded, where you just changed the stack,
weight,
and it's not that hard to do. You have to put the
you got to load them up, stack them up.
The plates on.
The plates.
Okay, and she just didn't like it.
Well,
and
it's
I don't know if
very
you felt
hard.
threatened or
no, I wasn't threatened by you. But if you're with somebody who's a stranger, right? I could say to the guy, I don't want to do that. That's not what I want to do. If I say that to you, then you say, well, why? This is going to be good for your glutes. And this is what I do every day. And this is and it's very hard, because then we would get into a fight.
Yeah, we would.
So it's easier.
We would start to clash.
Yeah, because then you were saying to me, you need to do 12 of these and 24 of these and whatever. And if I didn't want to, then it's like, I don't want to.
Okay.
With the stranger.
But it could have helped your physique, no?
Well,
you just didn't care that much.
I didn't care that much about the weights as opposed to walking.
We were one and done on that. And now we've been
went a
together
couple of
almost
times.
20 years. I don't think we ever did.
We did it in Connecticut.
Okay.
When you would go to the gym in Connecticut, sometimes I would go with you, remember?
That's true. Yeah, but we wouldn't do it together.
We did it in Puerto Rico.
We didn't do it together, though. You would just go off and do your thing.
Well, you would show me how to use the machine.
A little bit.
I'm not like a weightlifter.
No. But you get up before I do.
I do. I
on
do
many
weights
mornings,
I do
and
weights
she
3
does her
times
weights.
a week.
Yeah. I come in and she's doing her weights.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I do my own little thing. I
Okay.
make up my own little thing. And even when we first got here and I got that trainer, that girl, and I would go to the gym 3 times a week to meet her. I can't remember.
Yeah.
And that time she was training me, I pulled my sacroiliac out from her training me because she
sacroiliac. But
remember?
Yeah, I do.
Couldn't lift my leg up.
No, you couldn't.
And then I decided I'm just going to do my own thing.
Okay.
And I go and I get a physical, and the doctor says to me, I don't know what you're doing, but you have not one thing wrong with you on your blood work or anything, knock wood. So whatever I'm doing.
She's incredibly healthy.
And I walk every single day, at least 3-4 miles a day. In the city, I used to walk 6-7 miles a day.
So our deeper connection in the weight room failed miserably.
But we did go on the treadmills together.
Okay, we do. If we're on vacation.
Yeah, we get on the treadmill next to each other.
And you always piss me off because you always start 1 minute before me, and I'm going to go for 1 hour.
I know, but and then I
now
go to the
you're going to
bathroom,
finish,
and I go to the bathroom,
like, oh,
and then I stop in the middle, and I go to the bathroom.
And she goes to the bathroom. I could, in my life, as you know, I don't miss a day. I do 1 hour of cardio every single day.
I know.
Okay,
and I never miss anything.
And so. The prospect of me being on the treadmill,
right,
going fairly fast,
right,
trying to do my.
Well, you go where you can't. It's like I don't know what the next one is. What does it go to 8.0?
I don't know.
You do 8.9. It's like it's off the. I do 4.0.
But the point is, once I get going, I have to watch something to get my mind out and away.
You taught me about that. Yeah, that is true.
Okay, you have to have something that you lose yourself in.
I watch a show.
And the last thing I'm going to do is stop and go to the bathroom.
And then I read my magazines. But then usually at the half-hour mark, I usually just hop off and I run to the bathroom and I come back. And you're so upset that I hop to the bed. Well, I have to go pee.
Okay, but you just lost 5 minutes. Are you going to get it back? No.
No.
You're
5 minutes.
It
takes me 5. So I add steps, walk into the bathroom.
Okay, I guess so. I don't know.
But because of you, don't you remember I bought in my apartment when I first met you, I didn't have a treadmill and I used to walk every morning. Excuse me.
Finished.
Remember?
As you said, get a room.
I would walk get a room. I would walk every morning at 6 a.m. before I went to work. I would walk on First Avenue.
You would.
Remember? I'd walk all the way down to 42nd Street from.
No, it's incredible.
Right? And then you said.
That's how you do this.
Yeah. Then you said to me, why don't you get a small treadmill for your apartment? And I went on QVC and I bought one for like $400. And it was a small one. You could pack it up. Yeah. Because you said, what happens when it rains and it snows? I say, well, I still walk outside and it's really terrible. I put my boots on and then you said that to me.
Okay.
And then I also got hit by the car that time.
Yeah, you did.
That was not fun.
It was not fun. But what happened to the $400 treadmill?
When I moved, I gave it to the super.
Okay. So it never really.
No, I used it every single day.
Oh, you did use it?
Yes. Don't you remember? I used it every single day. I had it in my living.
Oh, well, you do it here.
I do it every single. Every single morning, I get up and I do it. Okay. I never miss a day.
Had some good effect.
That was a good thing.
Positive. Okay. All right. Here's a comment from Renan Barcana 3007. How did Ernestine not faint with the bleeding hand? I nearly fainted from the story.
Geez. That is true, my friend. That is true.
Okay. She screamed, I cut my finger off. I
thought I cut my finger off, but
we appreciate that you appreciated that.
That was terrible, I can tell you. I don't know how I didn't faint, but when I did go to the hospital with my sister drove me. She didn't have her glasses on. It was terrible. I have never been so cold in my life from nerves that I was chattering. My teeth were shaking, and I was so cold they had to bring 2 blankets for me because I was so nervous I was going to have to get surgery. That's true.
And right now I am so hot that I'm starting to sweat through this top.
I'm so comfortable.
And I tried to get you to let me turn the air up before we started the show,
great.
And she said, "No, I feel great." So anyway, I compromised and sacrificed again. Okay, thank you for that. This is Travis from New Haven, Connecticut, fairly near where I used to live. Yeah, that's true. Is the taping of the show the only time you're in the same room together during the playoffs? Feels like that would be the lone time Skip leaves his man cave.
That's true.
Okay.
But you
know what? It's not true because I wanted to tell you this. I'll just do so publicly. So the other night, you came in and we were going to eat dinner and I was watching the Miami Heat, an
Yeah,
NBA
I remember.
game.
I said
because
Jimmy Butler's
Jimmy
back.
Butler
I said
came
that.
back.
Yeah, I
Okay.
said, oh, Jimmy Butler, I love him.
That's correct. So you sat down, and you won't watch football with me because you just, for whatever reason, you
It's
don't
okay.
like football.
I mean,
but
I had it on last night in the kitchen when I saw what's his name, who was the what's his name again?
Lamar Jackson?
No, he
Josh
lost.
Allen?
Josh Allen. I
Well,
saw
he
him,
won.
and he was. Yeah, I know. I saw
Okay.
he won. I had it on while I was making my dinner in the kitchen.
Okay.
I watched it, and I saw him talk to the reporters.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, Tracy. I saw him talk
It
to
was a
Tracy
great game.
Wolf.
Great
Yeah,
finish.
it was good. And the snow was coming down.
Did you see what happened at the end of the game?
Yeah,
A guy from Oklahoma, my school,
Yeah.
he dropped the ball
I
in the
saw
end
that,
zone.
yeah.
Mark Andrews, it hit
Yeah.
him right in the hands,
I
just a
know.
little
It's-
pop pass right in his
right.
hands, and he dropped it.
it was terrible.
It was terrible.
I know.
I mean,
Anyway,
I was
back
devastated.
to original programming.
All right. So I just wanted to tell you
Mm-hmm.
how much I enjoyed your company watching the NBA game because we kind of pop cultured a little bit.
Yeah.
But she's very good. She's very quotable, and you got into commenting on what you saw on television because there's
Yeah.
this woman who always goes to the Heat games that I told you
The
about.
woman in the gold outfit.
No, but she always wears outlandish outfits
Yeah.
that she could only wear once to 41 home games. She's at every home game. She's right in the front. People who watch
Yeah.
the Heat know all about this.
Yeah.
But they're just outrageous,
Right.
outlandish outfits
Right.
that,
Well, I think she wants to be noticed.
well,
so,
obviously
yeah.
she does.
Yeah.
And she's always the same guy, and
Right.
they're just front and center.
Yeah.
And I've talked to Lil Wayne about it because he used to be a season ticket
Yeah.
holder at the Heat. He got kicked out at one point.
Right, I remember.
Because he got into it with LeBron about something or Dwayne
Right.
Wade about something. I forget. But the point is, then we got into Jimmy Butler's hair because he had
Yeah,
streaked
I love the
right?
streaks he did.
Yeah. And then we got into Tyler Hero wearing a headband,
headband.
which just looks bad to me because
I
now
don't know.
Austin Reeves is wearing a headband. And as a white guy, it just looks odd to me.
I just
It makes
don't know.
you look
Does
sick.
it
or something.
really help sweat? I don't know.
Yeah, it does. I used to wear one occasionally.
I mean,
just
Remember back in the day, Olivia Newton-John started the trend with the
She did.
headbands
for working
Let's Get
out.
Physical.
No, it was just
Yeah,
for
but
that
the song
video?
was Let's Get Physical, and she
Okay,
had the
that's good.
headband on.
Okay,
But I
Tyler
thought it was
Hero,
more of a look.
it makes him look nerdy and
Well,
makes
the
him
other
look.
guy used to wear, what was his name? Anthony Edwards? No. Who was the guy that used to wear, he was the basketball player. He always, Caruso.
Oh, Caruso.
Yeah, right? Isn't
Anthony
it,
Edwards?
No, not
We went from
Anthony Edwards.
Edwards to Caruso?
Caruso.
Alex Caruso.
Alex Caruso.
Well, he still does, but he's
Right.
with the Thunder
But he's
now.
been wearing, but he used to be,
Lakers. Yeah. Then he
I'm
went to
right.
the Bulls.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
he used to wear a headband all the
No,
time.
he just does.
Yeah.
But it makes
And he has
white
no
guys
hair.
look weird to me. Well, neither Tyler Hero looks like he's gone pretty much bald to me.
Yeah, but,
Right?
what's his name?
He did. Austin Reeves
Austin
has
Reeves
hair.
has great hair. and
He's
he
cut
wears-
it, but it used to fall down
Yeah,
into
he's got
his
the bangs
eyes.
that fall down, but anyway.
I thought that was his trademark, and now he's
Yeah.
eliminated his trademark. But anyway, we
Falls
got
in his
into
eyes.
that,
Yeah, that was fun.
and then we got
We
into.
talked about the outfits, about how I liked the neon, the pink and the blue.
It was good Miami colors.
Yeah, the Miami
right?
colors,
Right.
they
it's,
look
it's
good.
good, sort of South Beachy.
Yeah, I
sort
loved
of-
them. They were like almost neon.
Okay, but I really enjoyed that, and I wish we could do
Yeah,
a little more of that.
that would be fun. Well,
Yeah.
how many games left until the season's over?
We're getting into
100
that
and
halfway
something,
mark. Yeah, there's 100 games left in the season.
That's what it seemed like.
Okay, we end with a quick shout out to Tariq from Cairo, as in
Wow.
Egypt, whose
Cool.
question we'll get to next
All
week.
right.
But we just wanted to point out we've got Tariq from Cairo
That's so
watching
cool.
Skip versus Ernestine being
Never
taped out
been.
here
I'd
in
love
LA.
to.
Wow, that's
I'd
pretty
love to
cool.
go.
So Tariq, we appreciate you very
Thank
much.
you so much.
And someday we got to get to Cairo, and when we do, we will look you
Oh
up.
my God, that would be amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
We love Casablanca.
Oh
right?
God,
Okay, so
wouldn't
we
that be the
gotta
greatest?
get there somewhere.
Okay.
Okay, that is it for round 8. We will see you again next week if we're still speaking.
We're still speaking. Peace out.